Chapter 51 to 52. Part 1. Man or Monster. Hyperbolic Time Chamber. The air around me was as thick as mud, boiling, practically dripping to the floor as I pushed to my maximum. Forcing Super Kaioshin X10 on top of SSG Rose hurt in a way I would fail to describe, but I could only use it for a second or two anyway. Like my very marrow burned with acid, while my body melted on top of it. Yet, at this moment I was the strongest being in the universe. I was hundreds of thousands of miles from the entrance to the chamber. The only place I felt was safe to truly let go. The gravity was insane this far out, yet I knew it would only get worse even further out. I was worried that even someone like me could get stuck if I went any further. That I even felt comfortable going out this far was only because I could sense Mori at the entrance, still working on the Black Star Dragonballs. Speaking of sense, I could feel Broly approaching my area, so I dropped my power level as he landed nearby. "Hey Broly," called over. He replies, nodding. I studied him for a moment, sensing his unease. "What's wrong, man?" He doesn't reply for a moment, staring out into the infinite void, contemplating. A few moments pass before he finally speaks up. "When we first met, you mentioned that there had been someone like me on planet Vegeta. Her name was Sana." "That's correct." I answer, "She was your daughter." That's what Vegeta had told me. I wasn't sure if it was true, or just another way to manipulate me. Broly says, "Thank you for confirming it. Can you tell me about her?" "Course." "She was strong. Extremely strong, actually. She held off me, Vegeta and Kakarot. We were going all out, combining our power, and she was still stronger than us." I explained. "You would have been proud of her." "You killed her?" he asks, grimacing. "That's correct. She didn't give me much of a choice. She had aligned herself with an evil wizard named Babadi, who was feeding her rage and power." I explain. "She did not have your rage. She was mostly under control, but his abilities brought out the worst in her." "I'm sorry to hear that, Kel. I think I would have liked to meet her," Broly says before shrugging. "I am alone, Kale. Everyone I could have called family died, either by my hand or your own. Even my mother died giving birth to me. What I wouldn't give for peace. For family. We have each other, Broly," I say, patting his arm. "We finish this tournament, and the universe is open to us. We can leave it all behind if you want. Find a better place for us. Find the peace you want. I'm a monster, Kl. You've seen me at my worst. A monster of rage, destroying everything in my path," Broly says, emotion creeping into his voice for the first time. "I'll never have peace so long as I remain this way. I'll find a way to fix it," I answer. "The Scions failed. Even the Kais failed. I have no hope left," Broly said, turning away from me. "The Scions and Kais failed, but I won't. I won't give up till you get the peace you deserve, Broly. In this life or the next." Answer. "I promise you that." Part 2. Man or Monster. Namek. "Why are you doing this? Let me out, let me out." "Ah. Shut up. I thought, I'm trying to save the fucking universe." "Shut up. Too late to save it from you. Monster." Wrong, 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 wrong. I appeared with a pop, the Namekian in front of me barely able to react before my hand was ripping a hole through his chest. As his life force faded, I pushed, a bright light filling the night sky as I absorbed him. My mind was filled with images, flashes of knowledge, even as the man made of darkness shattered into atoms behind me. A swipe of my hand, the outlook shattering into large pieces that begin to fall to the planet below. A rice cooker flies to me, breaking apart, as a Namekian appears before me. He stood no chance, joining the rest within me. "Not right. Let me go, please." Asterisk sobbing asterisk. I twist, popping halfway across the galaxy, appearing before another. He stood, rage filling him even as he sensed what I was. It was too late for him, far too late, my power boiling over as I took his soul for my own. "It's done," I whisper, even as the screaming in my mind continues. I had done it, absorbed every last one of them. My body was boiling, sweating, bursting with energy, as Lord Slug's energy settled within me. "Murderer! Please! No, please! Let me out, let me out, let me out!" The power within me swelled, growing, doubling, tripling over and over. I could feel it boiling within me, growing ever larger. I had been right in the end. The Namekians were always meant to be one. They produced eggs, asexually, giving up parts of their souls to create more of them. I had combined them all together once more. I was the only one left. Oh, no. I collapsed to my knees, even while I laughed and screamed in my triumph. My body trembled, ripped, blood spilling everywhere, my mind going blank. All I could hear was the echo of laughter, of screaming, of crying. "Let me out, let me out, let me out." Chapter 1. A whole new world. I slept for a long time, Space pods are built for both function and comfort, which I'm quite thankful for. Trips within them can take a very long time, going from one side of the galaxy to another, and they came with a feature that I consider a practical requirement. Through some sort of quirk of sound, the pod was able to put you to sleep for a long time, effectively putting you in a coma after several days of listening to the drone. It was that drone that lulled me off to sleep on day 3, and so I slept. Months later, "Wake up, baby," I heard, just barely breaking through to my sleeping mind. It took me a few minutes to come to, the drone sleep still heavy in my mind, but once I did I was wide awake, more rested than I think I ever have been. "We're almost to our new home. Take a look, Kay," she whispered, pointing out the large front glass. Far, far below us stretched out a green planet, covered in white fluffy clouds. We were rocketing towards it at breakneck speed, but the size of the planet was belied by the distance, and we were still quite far away. I looked back up at my mother, wishing I could control my body well enough to speak. "Such a curious boy," she laughed. "It's uninhabited but has life. Animals, plants, trees, and water. We can live here safely. We're very far away from home. From planet Vegeta. No one will find us. No one will ever know." I turned back slightly to watch the planet approach, wondering how this life would work for me. With no longer being on Vegeta, several of my plans would need to be switched around. I couldn't very well befriend Sana, Bara, or anyone else since I wouldn't be on the strike forces. However, from what Omega Purunga had said, and what I had learned in the tournament, they didn't exactly need me there to survive. Bara would kill Cooler in about 15 years, with the help of Sana. So where do I go from here? Thought. I suppose the first goal is to increase my stats. I know instant transmission, but with barely any energy I'm not going anywhere. It would be a long journey, but I wasn't averse to that. My last 2 lives had ended much too early for my own tastes, and I was set on making it right in this life. Mike wouldn't know what hit him next time. Age 772. I heard from a great distance. "Dinner is going to be ready in a moment." I glanced back towards our cabin, before concentrating on the night sky high above me once more. I had been at this for years, trying to pinpoint certain people or locations across the galaxy, but I simply wasn't there yet. I could sense my mother easily, and the few creatures this planet had that could generate energy, but it seemed I was still bound to this planet for the time being, which was a huge drag. Let me tell you, being a kid sucked. Being an adult in a kid's body trying to pretend I was a kid was even worse. I'd been practicing for nearly 5 years, and even I could tell my facade was flimsy at best. Using words I'd never heard spoken before, laughing at jokes or references I shouldn't understand at my age, a look in my eyes that belied that inside I was not a little boy. It was sad, really. I had long since come to love my new mother, perhaps just as much as I loved my first. To see the look in her eyes when I act out of character, the disappointment, the fear. It cut me deep. For several years now I had considered telling her the truth, but each time I began to try, I couldn't find the words. There was no way to tell someone inside of a simulation that they were inside of a simulation, that the only real person is me, and that all others are constructs for me to interact with. Not only would I sound mad but threatening at best. With a huff I turned away from the night sky, blasting off into the air towards the cabin. It was a relatively short flight, and a soft landing in the front garden had me pushing open the door to the well light inside very quickly. "Hi Mom," I said as I entered the one-room building. "Phil, what took you so long? I called you several minutes ago," she said, looking over from the large pot she was stirring. "I hope you weren't too far away. You know I want you to stay close." "I wasn't, Mom. Just out thinking," I explained, hopping into the little seat. "Always thinking." "What were you thinking about this time?" she asked, setting a crudely cut wooden bowl in front of me. "When we're going to train next," I replied before digging. "I don't want to push you too hard, Kay. I've told you before. I get it, you're so smart and you're so strong already. Of course you want to be more and more powerful, just like your father. Some scion adults never even become as strong as you already are," she said, settling in with her own bowl. "I don't want to ruin what little childhood I've been able to give you." "I know, Mom, I understand," I replied. Truth be told, she wasn't wrong. I thought, studying her for a moment. Legendary Super Saiyan is absolute bullshit. I mean absolute bullshit. Starting with 50 battles was so far beyond OP that it wasn't fair to everyone else. I hadn't considered how hard it would be to build muscle and endurance as a child. I had thought I would max to 49 both before I was even 3 years old. But of course, the best laid plans never last. I had managed to build 28 strength and 19 endurance. The lack of experience meant I hadn't leveled at all. The 50 battles, however, plus the small starting bonus to my energy modifier. And at 5 years old I was at 180,880 power level. I didn't break 100k until I was closer to 12 in my previous life. "How about this? Tomorrow morning we can spar a bit and see where you're at, alright?" she asked, smiling down at me. "Yes, thank you," I replied. The only experience I could get on this planet was from fighting her, and she didn't treat it seriously at all. I was barely getting any experience at all, and that was holding me back drastically. Hopefully tomorrow I could push her to take me seriously. Next day. It was almost noon when all of our daily chores were done, and we had a chance to spar. All the gardening, water collection, and prep for the day were done, leaving us free to do as we pleased. Thankfully my mother was a full-blooded scion, so she felt the thrill of battle just as strong as I did. "Alright Kale, show me what you've got," she ordered. "I know you've been off training on your own. Has it helped at all?" I flooded my body with power, my white-green aura sparking into existence around me. I settled down into the fighting stance she had taught me, ready for her to make the opening move. She studied me for a moment before her own power level jumped up to match my own. It wasn't a perfect match, but it showed my mother was capable of sensing energy in some sense. I'm guessing she'll be surprised regardless, thought, preparing myself. She jumped forward, a kick meant to miss me by a hair rocketing past my defense, a follow-up jab crashing against my open palm as I block. I redirect as best I can, our size difference helping her much more than it helps me, pulling her forward and rising up for an attempted knee. She moves to block it, but I push another 30k power into my system, smashing through her defense and catching her right in the chin. It's not near enough to actually damage her, but it definitely causes some alarm in her motions as she turns up the heat. Yes, that's it, I thought, as I just barely dodged a punch that cracked the ground beneath us. Back and forth we went, me continually pushing more power into my system, forcing her to react in kind. I was nearing 120k when I saw an opening, a ball of blazing white energy forming in my palm as I pushed to max power level. A look of startled revelation crosses her face as I launch the attack, her own power level rocketing up and over my max, as a beam of energy from her mouth collides with a ball of power. I realize almost immediately that I've pushed too far, and try to use instant transmission to move out of the way, but I was completely out of practice with it. The combined attack slammed into my small form, washing me away in a blinding flash of light. The next day, I awoke to the normal icons telling me I was healed, quickly swiping them away. My body was wrapped in several layers of gauze-like material, my mother trying her best to heal me from what must have been a lot of damage. "Keke," I heard whispered from the front door. "Oh hey mom," I reply lamely. She quickly moves over to me, turning my head to face her, studying me. She begins pulling at the gauze, pulling more and more off of me, her motions getting more and more frantic. "Mom, what are you doing?" I ask, only be ignored. She continues pulling more and more off, till it all lay on the floor, and the bed pooling in a bloody pile. I see it then, the fear, the loathing. "How?" she asks, looking at me. "How is that possible? You were burnt nearly to a crisp. I nearly killed you." She exclaimed, starting to sob, dropping to her knees. "You were almost dead," she sobbed, clutching her knees. "Mom, it's okay," I start, reaching for her. "No," she exclaims, backing away from me. "That's not normal, none of that is normal. You are a 5-year-old boy. You. What are you?" I'm startled by the question. Silence filling the room, broken only by her sobs. "I'm the legendary Super Saiyan," I reply, breaking the silence between us. She asks, startled at my response, looking up at me. "You've always wondered at my progress. How fast I've gained strength, how smart I am." That's the answer. "I am not a normal Saiyan child," I explain at last. "I'm an anomaly, exiled from my homeworld by my father, the king." "How could you possibly know that?" she asks, stunned. "How do you know that word?" "I was there. I remember everything from the day I was born," I reply. "I remember being pulled from my pod, held once by my father before we left planet Vegeta never to return." How is this possible?" she whispered, not even looking at me. "I'm sorry to hurt you like this, Mom, but you deserve to know the truth," I tell her, sitting back on the edge of the bed. "You've never made sense to me. Your power growing by leaps and bounds, the way you speak, the way you learn. The way you look at me sometimes," she replies, sniffling a bit. "I am who I am, your son." Tell her. "I just wanted a normal little boy." "Oh God, I'm sorry, I know how that sounds," she says, suddenly looking up at me. "I don't blame you, Mom. Me being born this way has ruined your life. I can't imagine what you've given up to keep me safe," I say, looking down at the floor between us. "I would leave if I could, so you didn't need to suffer anymore." "Oh no," she exclaims, getting to her knees and shuffling over to me. "You're my son and I love you." I may not always understand you, but that doesn't change that. I don't say anything for a moment, just studying her for a bit. "Thank you. I'm sorry that I startled you. I'm sure my healing like that was a big surprise." She nods before saying, "Yes, but I'm glad you're healed. I was worried I may need to contact one of the local inhabited planets for help healing you." Do you understand why I've never been bothered trying to have a childhood? I ask, wondering if I can turn this situation to my advantage. She nods before finally getting to her feet. You want to be stronger and apparently can heal at an extremely fast rate. You're feeling held back. A little yes, I reply, nodding. She nods as well before smiling slightly. Do you remember what your father said before we left? Do. He said I could one day be the strongest of us all. Answer. She smiles fully now, a fierce look on her face. Let's prove him right, shall we? Age 774. Things moved quickly after that. With no reason to hold back and my injuries healing every single day, my power grew quickly, leaps and bounds, leaps and bounds. Then too, as my power grew greater than hers, so too did her power grow. Not quite at my pace, but the synergy of two scions, both with great potential, pushing each other to new heights, was a thing of true beauty. If changing the landscape just by powering up was beautiful to you, that is. All right, Mom, let's do this, I announce, flooding my body with power. The ground for miles around me cracked, shattering, breaking down into dust that filled the air. After 2 years of hard work, I was approaching 900,000 power level, and I still hadn't leveled up yet. My mother was lagging behind now by a good amount, but I was able to help push her forward easily enough. Opposite of me, her own light blue aura flared, kicking up its own dust cloud. Almost immediately following, her fist was slamming into my crossed arms, knocking me back but nowhere near out. I righted myself, boosting back into attack range, my hand grabbing a hold of her arm to pull her to me, a hard left slamming into her cheek to follow up. It's interesting to note that hitting my mother with a punch that could crush stone didn't feel wrong to me anymore. It seemed that after so long being a scion, a combined 18 years at this point, fighting was second nature. A blast of energy from her palm catches me slightly off guard, lifting me into the air and away from her. I sense her circling left, her kick crashing against my arm as I defend my head, returning with a hard punch to her gut, doubling her over. I try to follow up with another hard punch to her face, but she manages to rotate enough that I miss, opening my side for a jab that sends pain shooting through my body. Probably gonna piss blood all day till my kidney heals tonight. I think, blocking a second side shot with my forearm. I move, my left arm shooting out to again crash into her face, blood spurting from her broken nose, but she ignores it in favor of a kick that smashes across my face, knocking me to the ground. It goes to show that even though I was nearly 25% stronger than she was, her body size in comparison to my own meant her hits simply hit harder at times. It was of course at this moment that our peaceful lives would end. Stop, I yelled, snapping my head high to the left. Far, far above, I could sense 2 high power levels breaking through the atmosphere, heading for the ground. 2 energies that I was familiar with, and 2 energies that gave me real worry. Kalo, my mom asks, landing next to us. The scions have found us, Mom, I tell her, pointing towards the 2 pods that are just now small white dots glinting in the sun. Take the pod and run, Kalo. I'll hold them off long enough for you to escape, she orders, turning to face the oncoming threat. No, don't be dumb. Together we can hold them off. Tell her. Bull, please. I'm your mother, just do as I tell you. He pleads. Absolutely not. They would kill you, and I'm not going to let that happen, I reply, standing my ground. She glares at me but knows she can't force me to do anything, and so we wait for the threat to reach us head-on. It only takes another minute before both pods crash into the ground a few miles away, and 2 figures rise from the craters, rotating till they are facing us and heading our way. A moment later the 2 scions land before us, before glancing at each other. I think that's them. Looks like you were right after all, the first one says, laughing. The king will be pleased. I agree. Traitor anomaly. At this moment you are wanted dead or alive. If you come with us you will face trial. If you resist you will be killed. You have only 1 dash, the second one starts, but I interrupt him. How did you find us? Ask, studying them both. Our ships can sense energy. An uninhabited planet with 2 high power levels. That requires a looking into. The second answers. Do you know who I am? Ask, looking between them. I am your prince, yet you come to my planet planning to kill me? Some places call that treason, which is punishable by death. Hey, my mom whispers, looking startled that I would speak to them at all. How dare you, scum? The first yells. You are nothing but a broken genetic freak. You dare pretend otherwise. The second one looks bothered by the first's outburst but doesn't say anything in response. Fine, so be it. Bardock Raditz, let's do this.